Embassy Bistro. It's a perfect thing for this, lunch, a beer, anything. As you can see, we have been joined here today by a very notable and esteemed person. So let's give Elizabeth May a big welcome to Thunder Bay. So I'd like to make some comments, probably about 5 minutes worth, and then Elizabeth has some things to say, and then we'll open it up to questions, not only to the media, but to any of you who come out here today. As you know, I've been concerned for quite a while. Our three main parties are trapped in old-style 20th century politics, and they just don't know much about compromise or cooperation in the House of Commons, unfortunately. The Greens and Elizabeth are the party of the 21st century. They are the party of the future. I guess I should be saying we are the party of the future. We are putting principle ahead of political partisanship. And we have the best platform, and we sure have the best leader. So I just today paid my membership to the Green Party, and I opted for the 3-year option. It was $10 a year, or 3 years for $25. So I like a bargain, and also it's a commitment. So Elizabeth is stuck with me for as long as she chooses to have me, and maybe longer. In 2003, Jack Layton asked me to run for this seat. And he talked me into it. He was a very persuasive guy. And as you know, I lost. And in 2000, and the election was in 2000. In 2006, I ran again. You may recall it was colder than this. It was like 39 below zero night after night. I was helped me and us to take this seat, and we won handily, and I became the member for Thunder Bay Superior North. And in 2011, I ran again at Jack's urging, and with his understanding and his agreement that I would not be whipped on any votes at all, that I would represent my constituents. So as you may recall, we got almost 50% of the vote, very close to 50% of the vote that time. So that was quite gratifying. Jack was very persuasive, but he never ever whipped a vote, for me anyway. I don't think he did it with other party members either, but he never whipped my votes. He sure persuaded well. He used every tool in the book. Persuasion, guilt loading, single malt scotch, whatever it took, he did his best to get me on side. But he never whipped my votes. And he was really good at balancing the needs of the party and the MPs. After Jack passed away, a very sad time for many of us, they chose an interim NDP leader. And it became very clear immediately that votes would be whipped and I had better behave. And I was told in the bluntest terms that, are you ready for this word? If I didn't vote the way the leader and the whips and the party hacks wanted, I would be punished. Punished. And I informed them that I have an 18-year-old son who's turning out very nicely, and I've never punished him a day in my life. Persuasion and education and collaboration work much better. So, but I thought about leaving at that time, but I wanted to wait and see who the leader would be. And if the leader had been Nathan Cullen or Paul Dewar or one of several others, I'd likely still be with the NDP because they're Democrats. They're small d Democrats and large d Democrats. So I waited until we got a new leader. And when it became clear that the whipping and the control was going to continue, I decided to leave. So I can't remember whether it was Earth Day, the day before, or the day after in 2012, but it was right around Earth Day. Elizabeth has a better memory. She probably remembers.
I think it was on Earth Day.
All right. Anyway, it was an auspicious day. So I decided to leave, and I was going to announce my intention. Recently, as you know, Brent Rathgeber, a very fiscally conservative member from Alberta, has left the Conservatives for exactly the same reason that I have left the party. I'd like to read to you the statement that I prepared to present in the House on that day in April in 2012. I didn't get to present it, and I'll explain that in a moment. But here's what I had intended to say. Quote, Mr. Speaker, I was honored when the voters of Thunder Bay Superior North chose me to be their voice in the House of Commons. I committed to them to be honest, open, and accessible, and to keep my campaign promises. Despite a wide range of life experiences with dozens of organizations, none of that quite prepared me for the problems in this House. I have much respect for most members in this House, but our three main parties require lockstep discipline with little room for meaningful public debate or for putting constituents ahead of party politics. Fueled by a flawed and antiquated electoral system where 39% of the vote can gain 100% of the power, the main parties are mired in a win-lose battlefield mentality. Instead of cooperation and compromise, our voters observe mindless solidarity where we're always right and they're always wrong. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, to best represent my constituents as of today, I will be sitting as an independent. Close quote. Well, I wasn't allowed to present that. Somehow somebody in the party found out, and the party went to the Speaker and pulled my statement that day. So I didn't get to present it. So I presented it using social media, and that worked, but it's not enhancer, darn. So it underscores just what the problem is. How ironic that the day you're trying to leave your party, you're not allowed to tell the House of Commons that you're going to do it. At that time, I told you, I told Thunder Bay, I told the media that I would not consider joining any other party for at least 1 year. It's been 1 3/4 years, almost exactly, and so you see what I'm doing here today. Some of you have probably heard through the media or directly from me that I believe as an independent, my effectiveness in the House has increased. I get more speaking time, I get more questions, I get more statements, and I feel like I can better represent you. So why am I doing this? Why am I joining Elizabeth May's Green Party caucus and doubling the size of her caucus today? I stole your line, sorry. I'm sorry, Elizabeth. So now, unlike most MPs, I will be able to work for all my constituents, just as I did last week. And but now I will have the resources of this party, and I will have the resources of the only truly democratic party in the House of Commons. So I believe that as of today, I like to call my status Independent Plus. Elizabeth has promised me, the party has promised me, their council has promised me, and their bylaws promised me that my votes will not be whipped and I can work primarily for you. That's why I'm doing it today. It will not decrease my independence. I believe it will enhance it. This decision was not easy, and to be honest, I did consider and talk with the parties about joining the Liberals and the NDP. There are many fine MPs in every single party. Most of the people that get elected to the House of Commons go there with the best of intentions, and they want to do a good job, and they're honest and they're hardworking. But when they get there, they find that the situation is so hyper-partisan and they are controlled so tightly that many of those fine people don't get to be the fine representatives for you that they could be and want to be. It's been this way, and it's been getting worse and worse since 1970, 43 years ago, when Pierre Trudeau changed the Elections Act to increase the leader's control over his caucus members. What was obvious in Trudeau's legislation was that the party names were added to the ballots for the first time. Personally, I think that was a mistake, but it wasn't that big a deal. Far more serious, though, was in the fine print, which required that the national leaders sign your nomination papers to run for a party, or you can't run, even if selected by the riding associations. Mr. Chong's excellent Reform Act could reverse that, MP Chong, and we're going to talk more about that in a minute. Soon, Prime Minister Trudeau was calling his own backbenchers mere trained seals. Previously, from 1867 until 1970, starting with John A. Macdonald, MPs had worked for their ridings, and the leaders had to use skill and persuasion to keep their caucus happy and supportive. Are you listening? Yes. Skill and persuasion. And happy and supportive.
And I heard the single malt scotch earlier.
So, it's sad, but today most MPs in the House of Commons are what I call customer sales representatives for their parties in their ridings. That's a sad situation. It's a shame because most of those MPs from all parties are caring and committed people. So let me tell you in a simple and straightforward terms why I am joining the Green Party today. I can and I will only join a party where it is well understood that my first loyalty is to the best interests of you, my constituents, and to Canada. Where parties and their seeking of governing party are a means, not an end in itself. This is the only party, and Elizabeth is the only leader that seeks consistently, day after day, cooperation and compromise with other parties and respect for all of the MPs in the House. And the three main parties still require lockstep discipline in the House, with little room for meaningful public debate. Many Canadian voters, maybe some of you, share my disillusionment with the situation in Parliament. 4 out of 10 eligible voters, more than 4 out of 10, in the last election, federal election, declined to even cast a ballot in the last federal election. It's become very clear that our flawed political system and our flawed electoral system brings out not the best, but the worst in politicians and parties all too often. I've done a lot of things in my 67 years, and Parliament is one of the most flawed and dysfunctional organizations I have ever participated in. So I will never represent any party that whips my votes, and that means that none of the three parties, unfortunately, was an option for me. There's only one party that will allow me that freedom, as long as I stay within the 6 basic principles of the Greens. They're not very long. Some of you may have a sheet with them on them, but I believe in these, and it will be required that I stick to them. They have to do with sustainability, nonviolence, social and economic justice, participatory democracy, and diversity of all kinds, biological and cultural. No problem on those. So, the Greens have the best platform. I think some of you have copies of it. It's online. It is excellent. It is not, Elizabeth, perfect. I will be talking to you about some of the things that I hope to change a little bit. But it's really good. It's far and away the best platform of any of the parties. And a couple of the parties don't even have a platform, and they say, well, we're already in election mode. We don't want to have a platform. We could be attacked on it. It's very comprehensive. It's very balanced. And this is not a one issue strictly for the Environment Party. This is a party with a very balanced platform. And when you read it online or the hard copy, I think you will see that it has a lot to say about, and good ideas and good strategies and visions for social justice, economic justice, building the economy, adding jobs. 87%, I saw the statistic the other day, it's certainly close if not perfect. Most of the jobs created in Canada for decades have been created by small business, not large multinational corporations. But for some reason, we keep subsidizing and pandering to the large multinational corporations like oil companies. So, I personally feel there has never been a party of small business. It's time we got one, and I hope as a small business person myself to help add that more of that kind of information and ideas to the platform. Now, the other reason, and a very big reason, is Elizabeth. the Greens, we have the best party in the Greens, the best leader in the Greens. Elizabeth is setting a new standard and a very high standard for behavior and leadership in the House of Commons. She's smart, she's caring, she's loving. And she is, by the vote of her peers, the hardest working MP in the House of Commons. This year she was voted by all the MPs in a secret ballot as the hardest working MP in the House of Commons. I got runner-up last year. She beat me out this year. And last year she was voted in that same Maclean's poll as the best parliamentarian of all the parliamentarians in the House of Commons. This year it's Peter Stauffer from Nova Scotia. One of the nicest things I've ever seen on Facebook about me, which I really appreciated on a particularly hard week, a year and 3/4 ago, somebody wrote in and said there's two kinds of politicians, those that want to be served and those that want to be served. And Bruce Hyer is one of the ones that wants to serve. And I hope that's true, and I believe it's true. But I don't know anyone who serves Canada quite like Elizabeth May does. So thank you, Elizabeth. If we had real democracy in Canada, which we don't, with the kind of proportional representation that way more than 90% of all the democracies in the world have, some kind of PR. Proportional representation, what I mean by that is if the Purple Party gets 20% of the national vote, somehow the Purple Party gets 20% of the seats. Well, that's not the way it works in Canada with our single-member plurality system. So if we had a truly democratic proportional system, Stephen Harper, with 39% of the seats, would not have a false majority with 55% of the seats and 100% of the power that he has today. He would not be in government, he'd be the opposition. He would have 122 seats in a liberal green NDP government. If we had a real democracy, the Liberals should have 58 seats instead of their current 34. As a somewhat regional party, the NDP would have 6 fewer seats than they have now. And today, the Greens should have had at least 12 seats and official party status. Parliament is a mess. Can we fix it? Yes, I believe we can. It starts by passing Michael Chong's brilliant, simple, and straightforward Reform Act. Go online, Michael Chong MP Reform Act, to restore democracy to the House of Commons. I have great respect for Michael Chong. He's one of the other smartest and hardest working MPs in the House of Commons. And his Reform Act is, I believe, the most important piece of legislation to be brought before the House of Commons in the last 43 years. 43 years ago, we had an important bad piece of legislation which stripped MPs of their powers. So I'd just like to, I'm almost done, but I believe that the function of governments is fairness and equality. And I believe that Canadians want to live in a country that is clean, that is sustainable, that is safe, and prosperous. And I want to serve in the government that does the following, and I want to read this because I want to get it right. Encourages the creative and industrious and generous, protects the weak, and controls those who are dangerous or pathologically greedy. So, by joining Elizabeth here today in the Green Party, to reiterate, I think I'm going to have all the benefits I had as an independent, and I will be able to put you first. Plus, and that's why I call myself Independent Plus, I will have access to the resources of a well-organized and well-established party with high-quality researchers, lots of interns and volunteers, a network across Canada of experts in very many fields, and the best leader in Parliament. So in summary, I really look forward, Elizabeth, to working with you to build a better Canada, a better Thunder Bay, Superior North, and thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you.
And you've been very patient.